श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। The 13th chapter has now come to a close, and in the 13th chapter we have seen many topics, 6, and that those 6 were further distilled to what? 3 topics: Jnanam, Kshetram, and Kshetrajna Purusha, and then Jnaya, all were conflated to one. Then Kshetra, Prakriti are one. So this last topic of the 13th chapter was what? Distinguishing between Purusha and Prakriti. And we already saw the distinctions. Prakriti insentient, Purusha sentient. Prakriti all the time moving and changing, Purusha nirvikari, and Prakriti full of gunas, and Purusha gunatita, free of gunas, nirguna. And we saw that, we saw all the and then Prakriti is mithya and Purusha is what? Satyam. And then the advice that was given from verses 25 to 35 thereabouts was how to identify with the Purusha and not with the Prakriti. Why? Because Prakriti is mithya. Prakriti is the house, Purusha is the one living in the house. The Prakriti is this body, and then the indweller of this body is Purusha. Please identify with Purusha, the instruction was given. Now, there should be no need for another chapter, but for Lord Krishna's full compassion, because he knows something which Arjuna is going to later find out. It's not so easy to identify with Purusha. Why? Because Purusha is Bhagavan and Bhagavan is me. To do that, especially when surrounded by Prakriti in the form of this body, in the form of this mind, in the form of the senses, which are all succumbing to the 3 gunas, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, it's not easy to find myself, identify myself as Purusha. So this is the connection to the next chapter. The last chapter ended on the note of identifying with the Purusha, and this chapter says, in order to identify with the Purusha, what do you have to do? Disidentify consciously with Prakriti. And what is Prakriti? Prakriti here is seen as the 3 gunas. So, this is therefore the description of the 3 gunas and the manifestation of the 3 gunas and what happens to the 3 gunas and how they manifest, how they bind the person, all that is the topic of the 14th chapter, and then therefore it is called Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. ॐ अथ चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः। श्रीभगवानुवाच परं भूयः प्रवक्ष्यामि ज्ञानानां ज्ञानमुत्तमम् यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे परां सिद्धिमतो गताः। इदं ज्ञानमुपाश्रित्य मम साधर्म्यमागताः। Don't swallow the visarga. मम साधर्म्यमागताः सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते प्रलये न व्यथन्ति च. So the first two verses really take us back to the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is what? Brahma Vidya. What is this Brahma Vidya and why it is important to study it? What is its phala? Because no matter what we discuss, it is for the service of this knowledge alone. So the first two verses are glorifying this knowledge, this same Brahma Vidya, which is going to which we are going to come at from a slightly different angle, from the angle of Prakriti, which should be disidentified with, and from the angle of the effects of Prakriti, which are the three gunas. So in the first two verses, Bhagavan says, I am going to give you this ultimate knowledge, the knowledge of all knowledges I am going to give, knowing which all the sages and the exalted munis, rishis, etc., they gained moksha. They gained moksha means what? You who is exposed to this knowledge will also what? Gain moksha. That is the idea. Moksha is the phalam, and this jnanam all the exalted people have benefited, he says in the first verse. And then he says that gaining this knowledge, how do they get moksha? They see themselves as me. Mama sadharmyam agataha. They see themselves as non-separate from Bhagavan, from Ishvara, as a result of which what happens? Sargepi na upajayante. When the creation takes place, they are not incarnated. Pralaye na vyathayanti cha. And when pralaya, when everything goes back to Bhagavan, they don't get scared, they don't get afflicted, they don't worry because they know they are immortal. So the first two verses in the 14th chapter are a further glorification of the knowledge. And then in the next two verses, in verses number 3 and 4, Bhagavan says that I am the mother and the father of this universe. Just like a baby cannot be made without the contribution of mother and the father, similarly, when you look at me from the standpoint of Prakriti, what am I? Mother. And when you look at me from the standpoint of Purusha, what am I? Father. So, I am that because of which this Jagat is created, because of which the Jagat is sustained, because of which the Jagat resolves, comes back to where? To me alone. So, I bless the Prakriti to create. I give her the ability to create, that Shakti to create. I direct that Shakti, and then I also, she provides the raw material and I provide the, what is that? The DNA, except it is Sat Chit Ananda. I provide the seed of the Jagat. What is the seed of the Jagat? Sat Chit Ananda. I give the Sat Chit Ananda, and Prakriti is responsible for the raw materials, namely the name and form, and through this division of labor, the entire Jagat is created. Why are we interested in the cosmology of the Jagat? We are interested in the cosmology of the Jagat because this is where the gunas are coming from. Why Prakriti? Prakriti or the Maya Shakti here paints the whole universe with three primary colors. Red, blue, green? No. What? That is what she has in her palette. Sattva, a little bit of sattva. Oh, give this person a little more sattva. This person just always like this. Tamas. Like this. And all the things, even foodstuffs. Certain things are sattvic. Certain things are rajasic. Certain things are tamasic. In fact, if you go to an Ayurvedic physician and have your appointment and then come out, you don't feel like eating anything because something is too rajasic, the other is too tamasic, and you just have to, from vegetarian, you have to become fresharian because each thing will increase this or that. Everything has sattva, rajas, tamas. Like red color is associated with rajas. Yeah. Dark brown, black associated with tamas. And light pastel colors, white, etc. associated with, hence the color of the uniform is white. Imagine if the ashram had black color uniform. Everybody wear black. Of course, summer and even for the winter, like the course started when? January. So, we gave everybody black uniforms, head to toe black. Wear black and come. What would happen? The 3-month course would just become a 3-day course. That's what would happen. But what does black do? It absorbs everything. It may be trendy and wonderful to wear. Everybody wears it in all the fashion shows. That head to toe they are dressed in black. And everybody thinks I look very good in black. That's also, everybody thinks that. And all the models, these, what are they called? Models, right? The fashion models and all, they will all be wearing black. But black actually absorbs everything. It absorbs other people's emotions, it absorbs all the colors, and so therefore it's not a color for a spiritual sadhaka at all. And red is rajas, and again goddess worshippers wear red, and goddess herself is many times dressed in red because the goddess is associated with the balanced and the good aspect of rajas, which is the creative potential. And so like this, the colors are also sattva, rajas, tamas. Food is also sattva, rajas, tamas. Tofu. What is that? Chinese cheese, okay, but is it sattva? Is it rajas? He's giving me a definition of tofu. Is it sattva? Is it rajas? Is it tamas? Tamas. You look, Ayurveda doctor if you go to, they will say, don't even say the word tofu. You will fall sick immediately. Because it is, whatever is hard to digest is tamah pradhana. So therefore, it is not very easy to digest, and also it has got a complex structure. And it is a little bit processed. It is fermented, processed, and then it is pressed, and then you eat it. And so there is a kind of a chain that happens. All right? And so any kind of processed food will be tamasic. That's why now the latest trend is what? If it has more than one ingredient, throw away. Throw the contents of the box away, eat the box. Box has only one ingredient, cardboard. It's more nutritious than the food inside it. This is the regular trend. This is how it is. And so, everything in the universe is painted with the colors of sattva, rajas and tamas. What to talk of one's own mind. That is where we have to see the sattva, rajas and tamas as abiding in one's own body and mind. And so here, if this much is understood, we can go further. And here it says, fifth verse makes this very, very clear. Sattva, rajas, tamaha iti gunaha prakriti sambhavaha. They are born of Maya Shakti. Nibadnanti mahabaho. And why are they, why do these gunas exist? so that the whole Jagat can live within a boundary. If there were no gunas, then there would be no order. No order of human beings, no order of colors, foods, and how things interact with one another. So this is what is called the bondage of Prakriti. The bondage of Prakriti is just drawing the parameters. Supposing you are doing a painting. So the canvas is only that big. You can't go out of that. So you draw in pencil one square. That will be your area to play. Outside is not to play. That is where the frame of the painting will come. So inside, so you draw that line, and that line is drawn by Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Keeping all the beings, keeping all the Characharatmakam Jagat within this Sattva, Rajas, Tamas coloration. So in a way, it is part of, it has a binding quality. Deha Bhritam, those who nibadhnanti. Dehinam nibadhnanti means what happens is that these qualities as though bind who? The Purusha. The changeless indweller of the body, mind, sense complex comes under the spell, as it were, of this tamas, rajas and sattva of this prakriti. Why? Due to not knowing one's own nature. That's why the Brahma Vidya was discussed briefly and eulogized at the beginning. And then each guna is taken, 6, 7, 8, described and understood. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam. Anamayam is free from affliction. First sattva is taken up. Sattva is pure, free of all affliction, of the nature of light. And what does it do? It gives sukha. So whenever you are happy, what is the predominant quality? Sattva is preponderating. Sattva is presiding whenever you are happy. And then when you are happy, what do you want to do? You want to extend that happiness. So sattva binds by the ropes of happiness. You want to keep extending the happiness, and that is how sattva binds. Sattva also binds by generating a lot of punya. The person who is sattvic has a lot of punya, continues to gain punya, because the sattvic person is going on the road of dharma, correct? So therefore, what happens? If you have lot of punya, what will happen? Golden spoon and golden spoon in the mouth. One is born along with golden shackle. Golden shackle on the leg, golden spoon in the mouth. One is born. So therefore, sattva also has a clawing, binding nature. Verse number 6 says. Verse number 7 takes up rajas. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi trishna sanga samudbhavam tannibadhnati kaunteya karma sangena dehinam. Dehinam, the indweller of the body, rajas also binds. How does rajas bind? But before that, what is rajas? Rajas is in the form of a coloration of the mind, ragatmakam, a mental coloration. What does this mental coloration, what does it do? Trishna sanga samudbhavam. So it causes addiction and longing. Rajas causes addiction and longing, and causes the mind to be colored by the addiction and the longing, so that one only sees that what I want now, when the rajas predominates. And then sattva badhnati, it was said, it binds. Here nibadhnati, definitely binds, meaning the bondage of sattva is a little less than this one here. This one definitely binds. How does it bind? It binds the indweller of the body, dehinam badhnati, By karma sangena, by addiction to action. Sangha means addiction. So if one is rajasic, one cannot sit still. And one describes oneself as, I am a doer. I can't sit still, I am a doer. I only have to do. What can I do now? What can I do now? And you tie the person, you gag and bind the person and make them sit in the Vedanta class, they'll be very, very unhappy. And then instead you ask them to clean the Vedanta classroom, they will be very, very happy. Yes, okay, here I come. Because it is a certain kind of a nature. The nature predominates. Of course, there is a free will which can override the nature. That's going to be also told. That was already told in the beginning as well. But the nature is such that one is difficult to sit still. If you make them sit still, they will keep on biting their nails. I saw one person having long hair and they were eating their hair. So, why don't ask, okay? But Rajas, that's why. Or last life as a horse, thinking this is hay. Yeah, mistaking the hair to be hay. That's all. That's the only other reason one can give. So, therefore, the Rajas, how does Rajas bind? By making you a workaholic. So, it's one thing to be active and light on one's feet and do what is needed. It's another thing to be addicted to action. To be addicted to action means Rajah Pradhana. But again, a person is not always addicted to action. Sometimes this sattva, the moment of freedom from everything, the moment of being happy for no reason at all, everybody experiences. Even the most tamasic person has that experience. And then again, in sleep, one is not restless. So one is not rajasic all the time. And this also one has to remember. And then, so this rajas definitely binds through the workaholism, the addiction to action. Now let's not forget, the addiction to action is due to the longing and attachment. The longing and the trishna, longing, sangha. Sangha means getting addicted to different things and people in life. That itself is the cause for the restlessness. Okay. Now, the 8th verse talks of tamas. Tamas tu ajnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam pramada alasya nidrabhihi tannibadhnati Bharata. Here he calls him Bharata. First he was being called Kaunteya. Kaunteya, mother's child, Mother Kunti's boy. Bharata, usually translated as, what is that? The one belonging to the lineage or the scion of Bharata, Bharata. But Adi Shankara gives a wonderful meaning here. Bha is Brahma Vidya because bhasate, because it shines. Bha is Brahma Vidya, Ra is Ramate. Brahma Vidyayam Ramate iti Bharata. Or Brahma Vidyayam Ratihi Yasya Saha Bharata. It's a made up word, just like Sarvagya, Kshetragya, like that. You just, made up means according to the rules of grammar only. So certain these things are there, Tadhita. This is a Tadhita word. And then you can say Bha is Brahma Vidya, Tasyam Ramate is Bharata. So, hey Bharata, the one who is shining in Brahma Vidya, why he should say? Because he is talking of the least attractive of the three gunas, which is what? Tamas. Tamas ajnanajam vidhi. Tamas is born of ajnanam. Actually, that's not fully true because all the three gunas are born of ajnanam only. But tamas here is born of aviveka, is manifest as aviveka. Ajnanam must be translated as aviveka. What kind of aviveka? Dharma, adharma, aviveka. What is dharma, what is adharma? They don't know. And if you don't know, you can find out. They don't even want to find out. convenient. They don't know, they don't want to find out. Then what else do we have? We have karya viveka. What should be done, what should not be done, they don't know the difference and they are too lazy to find out. Why bother? I'll just be how I am. Oh, but you're disturbing other people. That's okay, it's their problem, not my problem if they get disturbed. You know, that's how it is. And adamant also they are, so they won't change. So this adamancy along with the habitual way of being and the aviveka, the non-sensitivity. Aviveka here not exactly discrimination. Discrimination, yes, but the non-sensitivity to different places, times and situations. So at home you may be eating with your hands. In India you are eating with your hands, especially South Indian meal. Rasam means that which runs is called rasam. Yeah, usually out of the plate. And then you have to be schooled how to mop it up with your hand and a little bit of rice, and as you eat it, it runs down the elbow, and then you chase it down and then lick it up also. And then you go to some other place. You have been invited as a speaker. You go there, and there also you do the same thing. And you say, what? This is how I am. This is how I eat. That viveka is not there. The sensitivity to what I can do in my own home, what I must not do in a group of people, because it's just it will disturb them. I don't lose anything by using a spoon when other people are also using a spoon. This is Vishesha Dharma. So they are blinded to Samanya Dharma, blinded to Vishesha Dharma. This is how I am, this is how I eat, this is what I do, this is what is the makeup of the tamasic person. So karya aviveka, what to do, what not to do, they don't know, and they don't care about finding out. Vachya aviveka, what should be said, what is avachya, what should not be said, they don't know. And they don't want to find out either. They don't care, basically. Why? The spell of tamas makes them adamant. Take me or leave me. This is how I am. And then everybody will say, okay, we'll leave you. We'll leave you alone. This is what people will say. So this is ajnanajam. Ajnana is not literally atma ajnana, because everything is born of ajnana. So here ajnana means avivekajam. Avivekat jayate iti avivekajam vidhi. Mohanam. Mohanam means, oh, he is Krishna in every body, sarvadehinam. Is that what he is trying to say? No. Mohanam means mohayati, that which deludes you. Meaning you don't know what is correct, what is wrong, and you choose that which is wrong as though because you don't have that clarity. Mohanam means it has a deluding quality. And how does it express? Pramada. Pramada means the inability to act when action is due. Class is over. What do people do when the class is over? Get up, take their things, go for lunch or whatever there needs to be done next. This person doesn't move at all. Come on, classroom cleaning day, get up. No, I'm going to sit here only. This is how it is. When things need to be done, if they don't get done, then one becomes, the 17th chapter is going to tell us, Dirgha Sutri, a procrastinator. Yeah, that's what it is. If things are not done on time, like if you stop washing your clothes because I didn't feel like it, then after you have brought only so many sets, and then after the sets have gone, then all that is left is a hanky to cry into. That's all. So then if you say, now I have to do all the laundry at once, then it's not going to work. It's going to make you angry. It's going to make the person angry, frustrated, annoyed, bored. This is generally the effect of tamas. in the body-mind complex. So pramada means not doing things which need to be done. First of all, certain things which need to be done, one knows by common sense because one leads an alert life. You are walking there, and in the place where we are walking, there is something dropped. Somebody's pen, somebody's phone. What is the most normal thing to do? Yeah, pick it up. Who does it belong to? Or keep it in one place and then put a notice somewhere, or tell somebody, please announce in some groups that here is a phone and now it is kept here, or something like that. So this is, so the sattvic person will simply do the needful, and then take it. Just to give a contrast, sattvic person will pick up the item, purse or phone or whatever it is, put it in safekeeping in the office, and put a note saying, please go collect, whoever has lost this item, please go collect. The rajasic person will also pick it up because fond of action, but the rajasic person will want credit. I found it. I gave it to the correct place. And what are you going to give me instead of this? The tamasic person will either not see the thing or walk on the phone. Okay, so first it was a lost phone, now it's a lost phone and a cracked phone also. Or kick it down the road because not even thinking what to do. So this way, this is called pramada, not being quite fully there. Somewhere the person is lost and not available for transaction. And then alasya. Alasya means whatever has to be done today, let me do it in the next janma. Let me do it in the next birth. Plenty of time. Why have to do it now? Why should I do it now? The rajasic person will have done 3 days of work ahead of time, and the tamasic person will do 3 janmas of work will be pending for the next birth, for the next life. So pramada, not being available for transaction, not knowing what to do, and not doing even after they are told. And then alasya. Alasya means just slothfulness, stupor. Then what's the last word? Nidra. Nidra means what? Sleep. Everybody sleeps, nothing wrong with sleep. Oversleep. Any place you take them, it's not that they will be awake in the movie and sleep only in Vedanta class. To their credit, as soon as you take them to the movie, there also they'll sleep. No refinement. Maybe the movie has something to teach me, maybe it has some aesthetics that can be appreciated. Maybe it is some Puranic story that I'd like to listen to. There's nothing like that. You take them anywhere, after a while they get bored with everything and then they just nod off. At the most odd moments, they can nod off. Even in the middle of a job interview, this person slept. The wife came and told me, and she was very frustrated. Yeah, he was answering very nicely and then suddenly sleep came. I said, had he not slept properly? No, he sleeps 10, 12 hours every night. So it was not sleep deprivation, it was just a tamas attack. That's all we can say. So nidra, pramada, alasya, etc. nibadnati. So this tamoguna binds in certain ways. Now that was up till verse number 8. 9, 10 and 11, very sweet and very easy this chapter is. We'll finish it today itself. So 9, 10 and 11 talk about how do they bind? How do they bind, and then how do they bind the person, and how do they overwhelm the person are the topics for verses 9 and 10. Sattvam sukhe sanjagati rajaha karmani bharata jnanam avritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. Pramade sanjayati uta. Uta means indeed. So, hey Arjuna, hey Bharata. What? Sattva binds in the form of addiction to pleasure, addiction to comfort, pleasure. And that pleasure you want all the time. And the pleasure cannot be had without a pleasant mind. So you are trying to cultivate a pleasant mind all the time, and then that is the way it binds. And then Rajas, how does it bind? Rajas binds you in the form of action, addiction to action. And how does Tamas bind you? Tamas covers the knowledge that you have. Here, not Brahma Vidya. Here, what? Even the knowledge of dharma, adharma, what to do, what not to do, all that it covers and makes one very obstinate. Pujya Swamiji used to tell a story where one of the very high-ranking families in the village, their daughter fell in love with a village simpleton. Something was off about this person, couldn't hold a job for too long, and he was just known as the village simpleton, which is a politically correct way of saying village idiot. Okay, and so this village simpleton, this girl, she was adamant she wanted to marry, and to keep her happy, the parents agreed and said, okay, we will arrange the wedding. And then after the wedding was done, they had to justify the son-in-law and justify the marriage. So whoever met them, their friends and all, they would ask, how is your son-in-law? How is your new son-in-law? He is wonderful. The parents of the girl would say, only two problems are there. What are the two problems? Only two problems, doesn't matter. What are the two problems? First problem, on his own, he doesn't know what to do. He does not know what to do by himself. So you have to tell him, go brush your teeth. Then he will brush his teeth. Go take a shower. Then he will go take a bath. Like this, he does not know what to do. First problem. And the second problem, okay, that's okay. What's the second problem? Second problem is, even if you tell, he does not listen. So these are the two problems with a son-in-law. That means what? The whole fellow is an incarnation of problems. That's what it is. So this obstinacy is a hallmark of tamas. So okay, they don't have dharma, dharma, viveka. I don't know what is dharma. I don't know what is adharma. There will always be a helpful Samaritan to say, you know what, I don't think you should do this. And as soon as you say, I don't think you should do this, the person will do that only with a vehemency only known to them. With an adamant nature, stubborn and vehement, so they always go on the wrong path because of the tamas. Not only they don't know what to do, they won't listen even if they are told. And then what happened? So this is tamas badhnati. And then what happens? Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakashaha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivriddham sattvam ityuta. Oh, I forgot number 10. Number 10 tells us, I'm not going to read it, it says that there are certain people with sattva predominant. It is how it is. It is karmic and prakritik in nature. Prakritik means it is born of prakriti. So some people will have more sattva, some people will have more rajas, some people will have more tamas. It's not that the one who is sattvic does not have rajas and tamas. They too will have rajas and tamas, but in a smaller measure. So this way, one particular guna preponderates the other two in each body, mind, sense complex. This we come to know from the verse number 10. Verse number 11 talks about how is the person when sattva, rajas and tamas are manifest. 11, 12 and 13, one verse for each guna. So, sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakashaha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyat vivriddham sattvam ityuta. When there is a preponderance of sattva, there is a lightness of being. There is compassion. There is accommodation. You are naturally kind to other people. Half an hour later, rajas may attack, and you had just lovingly given them something. And then when rajas attack, give me that. You may take it back. But sattva is that which is kind and giving nature. Everybody knows this. Everybody is, when are they forgiving? When are they allowing themselves to just be? There is a certain lightness of being. One is not feeling burdened by cares, burdened by resentment. So sattva, this is called the manifestation of sattva. Manifestation of sattva is also in the form of knowledge. It illumines everything, and the love of knowledge is also sattva. Whether that knowledge is laukika or Vaidika, doesn't matter. Whether it is Vedic knowledge, whether it is Atma Jnanam, or whether it is knowledge of geography, etc., still knowledge is a very refined pursuit. So sattva emerges as a love for knowledge. And then what about too much rajas? Lobhav pravrittirarambha karmanamashamaspruha rajasyetani jayante vivriddhe bharatarshabha. Lobha means what? Greed. Rajas is associated with greed because it was already said sanga. Sanga means attachment, clawing, not able to let go. Not able to let go is the other side of greed. Whatever you have, I want. And when do I want it? Right now. Therefore, give it to me, otherwise I'll snatch it from you. This is rajas. Lobha. And then what else is there? The foremost is the greed. And then pravrittihi arambha. Arambha pravrittihi means they have to keep doing something. Restlessness of the body, mind, sense complex. They have to, if you ask them to sit still, they cannot. Even when they are waiting for a plane in front of the gate, they will be shaking the leg, shaking the hand, doing something. This is called anga cheshta. This is because of rajas. Sitting still, they think is a foreign language. They don't know how to do that. So karmanam ashamaha. Karmanam ashamaha means mental restlessness with regard to the work. Mental restlessness, physical restlessness, and then spruha. Spruha means lot of longing. This is the way in which rajas is manifest in our lives. Everybody knows this. We have all experienced this. And then now for tamas, aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vivridhe kuru nandana. Aprakasha means mandata, dull. Anything you say, no reactions, very dull. And then absence of activity, apravritti, no activity. Pramadaha. Pramadaha means here doing the wrong thing all the time. Pramada, not knowing what to do and not listening to what should not be done and what should be done, doing the wrong thing all the time. Pramadaha means making repeated mistakes. Pramadaha. And then moha. Why do they make mistakes? Delusion. By this we know that the tamas quotient has increased if we feel like this. And then, so these are these three verses, 11, 12 and 13, is not to judge others. Adi Shankara says in the Bhashya, don't sit and say, ahaha, I see that you're having a tamasic attack, aren't we? No, don't go there. This is to judge whom? Your own self, and to become alert. Adi Shankara is very, very clear. This is not for judging other people. Oh, I see a little excess of rajas, isn't here? Yeah. You need to calm down. You need to get over your rajas. If you keep saying like that, you will become some kind of a micromanaging person, guna micromanager. That's not the point. This is for self-analysis, so that I can go more towards sattva. Sattva is easy to give up because sattva is very close to the nature of Atma. So we don't have to worry about giving up sattva. It's like the person who is playing that pole vault game. What happens in pole vault? Runs with the pole. And then there is a big string, you have to clear it. Uses the pole, sticks the pole in the ground, and the sports person hoists themselves over the string, and then what? the pole is left behind. The pole is also not taken on the other side. No. Similarly, sattva is to takes one to Brahman, gives one the clarity to study this knowledge, makes one ready, takes one to this knowledge of Brahman, and then sattva is automatically left behind. It's not left behind, it integrates into Brahma Vidya very easily. So sattva we don't have to worry about leaving. The other two we have to be careful about. So these three we should make sure that we have the, we use an internal guide. When there is too much tamas, we have to, the antidote is activity. Do some activity. When there is too much activity, sit for meditation. All these ways we manage the rajas and tamas attacks. Especially when you feel like saying something really quickly because of rajas, do not say anything at all. Just smile and say, let's discuss it tomorrow. And then by tomorrow, many changes would have taken place, not to worry. Then the next two verses talk about what happens to the person who is sattva predominant, who is rajas predominant, and who is tamas predominant at death. So, what happens at death is given. So it says, Yada sattve pravriddhetu pralayam yati dehabhrit tadottama vidam alokan amalan pratipadyate. The person who dies, who is a sattva preponderant person, a person who is mostly sattvic in nature, goes to exalted lokas and enjoys those lokas which are anamalan, without affliction. So, lokan, amalan lokan, because they don't have any mala, no impurities, no difficulties. They go to those lokas. Okay, what if I am rajas? Rajasi pralayam gatva, if a rajasic person, predominant person dies, karma sangishu jayate. Then that person is reborn in an animal body or a human body which is working a lot, like bees. Bees are always going to the flower, getting the thing, coming back, making beehive. Lot of things they have to do. Bees, ants. So suddenly they are going. Where they are going, God only knows. They just keep on going. And then you put your foot there, they will cross your foot also and go. So like this, they may be born as these kinds of yonis where the animals are constantly in activity because they are suited. The temperament was suited for that anyway. Or, I think one more thing is given. Karma sangishu jayate. Karma sangishu we can also take, it is born among people who are workers. They are always working. They are born to families who are doers. That also we can take. Tatha pralinas tamasi. When one has an extra tamas and one dies away, moodha yonishu jayate. They are born into birth canals of no discrimination. Either adho yonis, animal births, etc., or even human birth, but completely like this. Brahma Vidya, what's that? Why? Not in the least bit interested. You will not get moksha, you will get rebirth. Is that so? Okay, doesn't matter. This is how it will be. So, that desire to improve oneself, the desire to become sattvic even is not there. What to talk of? Moksha. And then what is the next two things? Okay. So then here, the next two verses talk about karmanaha sukritasya ahuhu satvikam nirmalam phalam. The phalam is given. Rajasasya tu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasaf phalam. Whenever I experience punya, it is because of sattva done in this or previous lives. So then, rajasasya phalam dukkham. Whenever I experience sorrow, it is because of rajasic actions done in this. Rajasic means again indiscriminate and sudden actions, impulsive actions done in this or other lives. And then what is the phalam of tamas? Ajnanam. Pain is the result of rajas, happiness is the result of sattva, and ignorance is the result of tamas. Not much to say here. And then, same thing, again it talks about, it's a little bit out of order, again it talks about the gati after death of the sattva, rajas, tamas in 18, verse number 18. Urdhvam gachanti sattvasthaha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaghanya gunavrittisthaha adho gachanti tamasaha. So they go to higher lokas, the sattvas, rajas people in the middle, and the tamasic people go to the lowest lokas possible. Lowest lokas possible. Now from 19 onwards, 19 and 20, the how to transcend the gunas are given. How to transcend the gunas? Here there might be two ways. One can say, I have to develop a sattvic disposition. I have to curtail rajas in me. I have to curtail tamas. This is okay. This is not forbidden by the Bhagavad Gita or by the Shastra. In fact, the clarification and becoming more sattvic is associated with the love of Brahma Vidya and the ability of the Brahma Vidya to shine in my heart and to give me moksha. All this is correct. But we are looking at the Jnani's response and understanding of these gunas. So the Jnani is identified with who? Prakriti or Purusha? Purusha. So the Prakriti is what? Just there, inert, insentient, mithya. And then changing, vikari, mithya, and then this one is, it is mithya, it is saguna, full of guna. So then the Jnani will think, what should I identify with? Purusha. The Prakriti is there. What is the Prakriti? My mind is Prakriti. My body is Prakriti. My senses, they are born of Prakriti. They are subject to the gunas, not I. So the Dehatma Buddhi is not there for the Jnani. The next two verses are saying, Dehatma Buddhi is not there. So then if the Jnani falls asleep, even in the middle of the class, there will not be any guilt or hurt. Why? The body fell asleep. The body fell asleep, the mind was in tamas, but I am not the body, I am not the mind. And in fact, in the last long-term course that Pujya Swamiji taught, it was, he was undergoing dialysis, he was in very, 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 very bad shape. And all the medications, he would just sleep in the middle of the class, and then everybody would be sitting, waiting, and 15 minutes later he would get up and he would start from wherever he had left off, even without asking where was I. And no need to apologize. Why? Because the body is undergoing this duress. So if the body is undergoing dialysis, of course the effect of drowsiness of the medication and the dialysis will be there in the form of sleep. This is a given. So there is no guilt. See, this is how the Jnani disengages from the gunas, not by trying to curtail the gunas. That would be a sadhana to resolve the gunas, etc. But here, once the Jnanam has come, then there is a total disidentification with the gunas. And so, if the Jnani is feeling some restlessness, then they will say, okay, the body is restless, the mind is restless. Let me sit down quietly, let me go for a walk. Okay, here is a tamas attack, let me sleep. So this is how the Jnani will not really go after the gunas with a sense of ownership. The sense of ownership with anything connected to the Prakriti, namely the gunas, is there is a total absence of that. This is what verse number 19 and 20 say. So the seer does not see anything. Na anyaha gunebhyah kartaram yada drashta anupashyati gunebhyascha param vetti madbhavam sodhi gacchati. This rishi, this jnani does not see any agent other than the gunas which are doing things in the body, mind, sense complex. So the agent is not herself or himself. What is the agent? Gunas. So the gunas, let them do. Earlier also we have seen guna guneshu vartante iti matva na sajjate. Prakritehe kriyamanani. This is done by Prakriti. And the gunas are there. And the guna guneshu vartante. The gunas belong to a different order of reality. They are mithya. They are changing. They are mithya. And then I am what? Unchanging Sat. So the unchanging Sat is as though in association with the changing gunas. Then why will I take that to be my own? They are not my own at all. So if a jnani yawns, the jnani is not going to say, oh, I don't know why this tamas is coming and I should just be a little more aware, and does not beat themselves up, because the yawn is why? The yawn is a manifestation of tamas. And that tamas is not me. Why? Because I am Purusha, I am not subject to tamas, I am not subject to rajas, I am not even subject to what? Sattva even, I am free of sattva. This is what is talked about. And then gunanetan atityatreen dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkhaihi vimuktah amritam ashnute. Transcending these three gunas, which are the cause of the body, mind, sense complex, the jnani is released from birth, death, old age and sorrow, and gains immortality. This should have been a good place to stop. But what? Arjuna uvacha. So this was actually a very good conclusion to the chapter. But he cannot help himself, because he loves jnanam and therefore he loves jnanis. And the same question he asked at the end of chapter 2, Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhisthasya keshava, and etc. What is the nature of the person of knowledge? How do they sit? How do they stand? How do they walk? How do they talk? That same question, wearing another dress, has come here. Same question. How do you know it's the same question? You will too when you just read this. So kairlingaihi treen gunan etan atitah bhavati prabho kimacharah katham cha etan treen gunan ativartate. So many questions in one here. Kairlingaihi, what are the characteristics? How, with what characteristics does the person transcend the three gunas? And then, how is the person recognized as gunatita? Who is gunatita? What is the conduct of this gunatita? Kimacharah? Katham cha etan? How do they? Etan gunan katham ativartate? How does the person transcend? And then we just basically have from verse number 20, what is that? 22 to 27, we have a rehash of the whatever was told in chapter 2, whatever was told in chapter 5, whatever was also told in chapter 12. Same thing, you will recognize the same expressions. I will just, since we have studied them in detail, I can briefly summarize. Prakashancha pravrittincha mohameva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati. So now prakasham, pravritti and moham are new words for sattva, rajas and tamas used here. Prakasha, sattva. Pravritti, rajas. Moha, tamas. So when under the spell of these three things, the person does not feel that I have to run away. I hate tamas. I love sattva. That thing is not there. Na dveshti, na kankshati. Same words from the second chapter have been imported. Copy, paste. Gita has done copy paste here. Then further, Udasin Avadasinah, this expression also has come earlier. Gunaihi yaha na vichalyate, the one who is not afflicted by the gunas, the one who is a asanga observer of the guna. Saying what? Guna vartante, the gunaha vartante, the gunas just remain. Iti matva na sajjate, earlier also we had seen this. So iti eva ya avatishtati na ingate. Na ingate means does not identify. Does not identify with that. Then same thing. Samadukhas sukhas swastha samaloštashpa kanchanaha tulya priya priyo dhiraha tulya nindatma samstutihi. This samaloštashma kanchana also came in chapter 6. That also we know, the one who is the same towards a lump of clay, towards a piece of iron, and towards gold. We have seen all this in detail. Sama sukha dukha, sukha dukha is the same one who is the same in sukha and dukha, as swastha, abiding in oneself. Tulya priya apriya. So when inimical conditions come and when good condition comes, same reaction. Dhiraha, courageous. Tulyatma ninda samstutihi. So when somebody criticizes or somebody praises, makes no difference to the jnani. Mana apamanayos tulyaha. Again we saw this in chapter 12, just 2 chapters ago. When the person is facilitated and when the person is dragged into the mud, no reaction, same reaction. Doesn't get carried away, doesn't get angry. Tulya mitra aripakshayoho. And then same thing was described in 12th chapter as samam shatraucha mitrecha. Here, mitra aripakshayoho. Ari means enemy. For the jnani is somebody who considers the jnani the enemy. Jnani will not consider somebody the enemy. Then sarvarambha parityagi. Sarvarambha parityagi means that the one who is not having an agenda to do many things, does not have that agenda, and then lets go of everything. So this is the person who is given up all undertakings, is called beyond the gunas. And then of course the one who is seeks me with utter devotion, because my devotion to Bhagavan is very much a part of this gunati tattvam. To transcend the gunas, the help of Bhagavan is needed. So 26 and 27 talks about how Bhagavan alone is, and this Brahman which is immortal, not subject to change, and is the truth of everything. This is your nature and this is my nature also, Bhagavan says. And so the one who with unswerving devotion worships me has help in becoming gunatita. Om Tat Sat. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Gunatraya Vibhaga Yogo Nama Chaturdashodhyayah. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Today